should be live now. So hello, everybody. I am HP Holo / Edie Sky, depending upon where you know me from. Either way, I write books, and I also interview other people who write books. And today we are talking to one of my favorite ever authors, Michael J. Allen. So Michael, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you write. Run with it.
All right. So I'm Michael J. Allen, Star-Lord, professional goofball, and USA Today best-selling author of full-spectrum, multi-layer, character-driven science fiction to fantasy. Man, I've got to get a shorter scriptwriter.
But you guys can already see why I like his stuff, because that's a lot of things that I absolutely love.
Well, I can't see it.
Yes, that is a challenge, isn't it? And that's going to be a subject too, because oh my gosh, you've had some years recently, with the loss of your sight. And one thing I have to lead this with is that so viewers, Michael and I are buddies. We've been chatting over the past several years, and the Michael several years ago slowly began to lose his sight and then eventually lost it. And the sheer tenacity with which he has faced this challenge has been amazing to listen to. I mean, it's obviously been tough, but I just really, really admire all the effort you've put into trying to make your comeback as an author, because it's really awe-inspiring. But we'll get to that later. So first off, I want to hear, you write a whole bunch of stuff. Tell us a little bit about some of the series that you've written. I mean, I was looking at your Kickstarter page earlier, and I mean, the sheer variety of genres you've written in, I had forgotten that you wrote in that many genres. It was like every time I scrolled down, I found something new.
Well, and that's funny because they're not all on the page.
So you got more.
we just did a convention at the end of July, and I unveiled 5 up-and-coming books that nobody's seen before. There was one from my Mom Atomic superhero series, which is
yes, you sent me the preview for that one. I'm excited about that one.
Well, me too. And I've got the first 2 books done. Actually, didn't I send you the first?
Yeah, you sent me book 1. Yeah.
Probably not important to the audience, but I like to keep track on stuff. So yeah, there's Mom Atomic, which is about a 30-something single pregnant woman who suddenly developed superpowers. Then there's Taco Truck Tammy, which is basically Legally Blonde meets Scooby-Doo. We've got the Guns of Underhill 19th Century Alternate History Epic Fantasy series, which isn't appearing on the Kickstarter. Neither of the Tammy or Mom Atomic are either.
Yeah.
We released just for the con the first of my Scion Rising remasters, which are me remastering the original Scion series that was my first ever published.
Oh yeah, I think I have at least a few of those series. Like I think it was one of the first things I bought from you whenever we met at a con several years ago.
Very probably. Very, very probably. There's the Bittergate Dragon Revolution series about the cherry coke addicted dragon, leading a revolution against his mom and her friends. Okay,
that series got me at cherry coke addicted dragon, because I can absolutely relate to that. Like, I'm not a dragon, obviously, but the cherry coke addiction is a thing. I love it.
And I'm a Pepsi drinker, so it's very uncomfortable for me to write. Like self-torture.
So anyway, we'll get to talking about the actual book we're here to talk about soon. But why have the dragon addicted to cherry coke if you're a Pepsi person? Why not cherry Pepsi?
Well, because first off, wild cherry Pepsi is a pain in the tail to find, because the distributors don't distribute it for the most part down here in the South. And second, we're in Columbus, Georgia, and I mean the story is in Columbus, Georgia, and in Atlanta, and both of those places claim to be the home of Coke.
Oh, okay.
So it really kind of made sense that it was cherry Coke. And the other aspect of it was, I don't remember whether you have this book, but our main character, who's not the dragon, is a 400-year-old moonshiner, Shawnee Viking wizard, peanut farmer. Yeah, it's confusing, but I kind of do. I like complex and weird, but so he has a way to actually. Go ahead.
Oh, so I was saying I love that about your characters, and we'll get into more about that when we talk about Eli in the Dumpstermancer series. But
so that main character makes gold just like any other wizard alchemist, except he actually makes gold out of Pepsi and white dirt, which is common down here in Georgia. Apparently lead doesn't work and philosopher's stones are silly, but for whatever reason, white dirt. And originally the ingredients of a Pepsi called Pepsi Gold, which hasn't been on the market for, I don't know, 2 or 3 decades. So, yeah, so cherry Coke. But you sidetracked me and I can't see my notes.
Oh, well, I can't help you there, man. You can call your daughter over to be your eyeballs.
No, I don't need to know. I'm just trying to be funny and not seeing it work. But so there's the one of the others we introduced at the con was Binary Online, the Pilgrim books. It's my first attempt at lit RPG. Apparently I do it wrong because my character is female instead of male.
Is this the one that I read and then you changed the title of?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yes. This, guys, whenever this book comes out, you need to buy it like 1,000,000 times and give it to all your friends and read it. It's legitimately one of the best lit RPGs I've read, even though, as you said, it's a little bit off genre. Well, but continue. Tell everyone about it.
It's female. It's an actual VR MMORPG with an immersion rig, and the game is science fiction, which is like these are like the 3 most opposite things I could have done. And I wasn't even trying to be contrary. It was just where the story went with. Let's see, tell you about it. When corporate overlords outlaw Paige's dream, she's forced into near slavery to protect her family. But when a game arrives at her doorstep, her whole life changes.
It's a good one. Do we have a release date for that one yet? You've got so much coming out.
I don't, because with all the blindness, there's a lot of writing in the background, obviously, while I was trying to figure out how to do everything. And I've developed a new way of putting books out into the world to better help them get better Wow, I can't talk tonight, Heather. Better visibility. So, I mean, if I can't have visibility, the book should definitely have better visibility. So we got a new pattern for doing that, and part of that pattern does include doing stuff like Kickstarter. So since I can only do so many Kickstarters at a time, that means that a lot of the launches have been pushed back. I'm trying to get together the Scion Rising remaster as either a partial or a full Kickstarter run. I'm looking at Blood Phoenix Chronicles, which we hadn't mentioned yet. The Angels and Demons Urban Fantasy, doing a leather limited edition hardback full set.
Ooh, yeah.
I'm looking at I'm trying to get Bittergate Dragon Revolution done finally. You know, we got 2 out, and we're still waiting on 2 sequels, and I'd love to launch it as a complete series onto Kickstarter. Most people don't want to get lit RPG when there's only 1 of them, so I want to try to get 3 of the Binary Online, the first 3 Pilgrim books done. So yeah, it's hurdles and timing, I guess. So I don't have. We did surprise everybody by showing up with actual paperback copies of the first Binary Online, that's Storm Refuge, and the 0 prequel Scion Rising, plus the 2 Mama Atomics, Taco Truck Tammy and Decoy. I think it doesn't help to count on your fingers when they're not there.
I can see how that would be a hurdle. Let's see. We've got some people in the chat. We've got Howard who says hello, and I'm going to mispronounce your name, and I'm sorry, but Obion says Titans rule. So welcome to the chat, everybody. I'm just clicking everywhere and putting all the comments up here. So thank you for watching, everybody. And now I feel like we're 10 minutes in and should actually get to the point of this interview, which is you are running a Kickstarter for book 3 in the Dumpstermancer series. And
the one I had saved for last and hadn't gotten to.
Oh, yes. Well, that is perfect timing then. Before we continue, though, I want to go over some cool stuff. Oh, David Badurina is in the chats. and says howdy and welcome, David. And so I've got a few little things to put in the chat here, and a lot of these can also be found in the show notes if you're watching on YouTube and Facebook. And then on Twitter, there's not an event description, but if you go to whatever page you're watching this on and then scroll up, you will see the show notes right above it in a right above this in a post. But anyway, we are giving away an ebook set of the Dumpstermancer series. And if you would like to enter to win that, I am putting the link for that in the chat right now. Also, this is for a Kickstarter, and you guys absolutely should support this Kickstarter because Dumpstermancer is hands down my favorite of your series. Like, all your stuff is great, but Dumpstermancer, first of all, its name is Dumpstermancer. I mean, it's that title alone was the thing that got me reading the series. I don't even think I read the back of the book. I just saw Dumpstermancer and was like, heck yeah, that's mine. If you would like to, if viewers would like to see my fangirlish review of Dumpstermancer #1, I'm also putting that in the comments. So go and read me being a fangirl. But yeah, there is so much to like in the Dumpstermancer series. It's wholly unique amongst urban fantasy. And so I have been, it's been what, 5 years since book 2 came out. So this is one of those series where it's like, I've been waiting. And so I'm rereading book 2 right now, or reading for the first time, rereading. I can't even remember. Books just get jumbled in my head, but I am experiencing the book right now again and loving it as usual. So that is the end of my, of all of my little links. Let's talk about Dumpstermancer 3.
Okay. So
actually, it's probably best, given that it is a book 3, it's probably best to start with the basics of the series itself. So take it over.
So first off, all I did is say the word Dumpstermancer, and you said gimme. So that's pretty much how that went down. So the Dumpstermancer series is about a homeless ex-con who's forced to create magic out of trash to save the city from the bastards who framed him. At least that's where it starts. Dumpstermancer world is actually a second world fantasy pretending to be an open world. The world is full of magic and technology working together. You can go into any basically, coffee shop and buy spells to find your keys, and spells to make you more beautiful, and spells to change the color of your hair, or I don't know, add a neon sign over your head. Pretty much anything you want, any convenience you could have, whether with normal means or only with magical means, you can get in these I stores. And that's EYE, not I like the apple. No, I'm not snubbing my nose at Apple. But, the eye of the corporation that puts out all the magic is Thoth Corp, whose logo is the Eye of Thoth. So everything that they make has EYE in front of it. Again, of course, I'm not making any jokes. But so the world mixes technology and magic, and our character starts off on a Greyhound bus coming straight from a virtual prison where he's been locked away for a decade, but really has been warring and fighting and dying for over a century. And he just doesn't want anybody attention. He just wants to go away and be left alone. And of course, he's not going to. I'm giving a little extra description for the first book because it's going to tie in here for the third.
Right.
When he finds eventually he sits himself down in an alley to start over his life, and ultimately is attacked by yet more people that are accusing him of things that he didn't do. They'd apparently followed him from the bus station, and he's saved by basically an 8 to 12 inch fairy rat known as a ret.
Oh,
the ret knight Kenrith. And through a series of arm twists, Eli is forced to help the rat with a big problem. And like I said, he just wants to be left alone. So not only are these fairies strong arming him into doing something, but his old protege from the company he used to own is there trying to strong arm him into fixing what his former partners have done and unleashed on the Sith.
Yeah. So he's got a lot of
So-
stuff coming at him from a lot of different directions. And
He
I
does.
have to say, I really, really love in the series as a whole, the way you've written Eli as a character. He's very interesting because he's in a lot of ways, he's very much the hero who doesn't want to go on his adventure. He's very he just wants to keep to himself, like you said, and because of all the betrayal, because of the intensity of the betrayal, he's in a lot of ways a very bitter character. But you write him in such a way that he becomes likable, and that is a really, really hard thing to do with that particular kind of character. And that's one of my favorite things about Discarded, about the first one, is that you take that really, really gruff character who doesn't want to interact with anybody, and by showing the intensity of the struggle he's going through, make the reader root for him. And I really, really like that. And
the hero that doesn't care.
Yeah, quote unquote. Well, doesn't care is the wrong way to describe Eli, because he very much does care. And one of the things I really like about his character is that he starts out as someone like he founded Thothcorp because he wanted to do good in the world, and then his plans were corrupted by the people around him, and he was discarded, as the title of the first book goes. And so you have this person who was optimistic, who did want to help people, and was very genuine about it, and has just been so beaten down that he just wants to stay away from everybody. But there's still there is still that little ember of wanting to do good, of wanting to help people, which it eventually gets kindled, because his former corporation is turning people into monsters, and he's like, I can't let that stand. And so
Well, and when I said doesn't care, that's what Eli keeps telling everybody, including himself.
yeah.
But you're right. He's really bad at not caring.
Yeah. He's terrible
I
at
don't
not caring.
I don't know if we've ever talked about this, but the whole Dumpstermancer series is basically a grief recovery arc.
I think we have talked about this, but we can definitely talk about it here too.
And Discarded, and then Duplicity, which is book 2, and now Decoy actually close off the whole denial arc, and move us into anger, which is kind of split in the middle of Decoy, which is book 3.
Oh,
So
are there going to be subsequent books? Since we're talking about, are there going to be subsequent books, or is book 3 the last one?
Book 3 Decoy, book 4 Disrupted, book 5 Displaced, book 6 Disillusioned. I forget the rest, but there are another 4 or 5 of them.
Yes. All right. So there's definitely more to look forward to. You mentioned it closing off an arc, and I was like, oh, arc. Does that mean there's more?
Well, I mean, 5 stages of grief.
Yeah.
So 5 arcs. Basically, I mean, they're not necessarily trilogies, but they are definitely story arcs. Actually, I'm trying to get done Devastated, which is is going to be the prequel of who Eli was and when the whole betrayal happened.
Oh, that's gonna break my heart when I read it, but I'm gonna love it.
Well, it's fun to begin with, because he's out spelunking in ruins, playing Indiana Jones, trying to find spells. That whole thing we talked about through the books that he used to do, we're actually doing it right there. In one of the currently released books, we talk about an experiment that Eli runs on his protege. Well, the experiment happens in Devastated, which may get a different title, just for the record, because it's not done yet. Until it's done, its title isn't set in stone. But yeah, he's going to be Indiana Jonesing it, and there's going to be he's going to have interpersonal issues with Eve Ford, who's a fairly major character for the first, or a fairly major wrinkle, I guess, for the first 3 books. You don't ever see Eve on page, but you do see her brother Caleb and his buddies Ugly and Ugly and what was the other one? Ugly and Stupid.
I remember, but I know what you're talking about.
Well, their names are actually Cody and Bo. We find that out in DECOY. So there you go. I've lost my place. DECOY,
Oh.
right.
Yes, DECOY.
So DECOY, I've got to say, is one of the most impressive books of the 3 so far. It was actually meant to be a novella so that Eli could take care of a couple errands that needed to be dealt with before the whole disrupted plot line occurred. And it didn't like that, apparently, so it took on a new life of its own. We get to meet, how many? 3? 3 new Fae species, I think it is. We get to know a whole lot more about the Otterin, which as of book 1 is an old Indian spirit that can possess like otters and other creatures and form into a body and do nasty or mean things. We get to see, I want to say, 2 new spells. And remember, Eli's books are only about 2 weeks long. So in the 3rd book, you're barely, you're under 2 months since he got out of prison. And he never wanted to deal with magic again. And he's not allowed to buy components or even the spells he designed himself. So he's got to make up new spells himself. I said that already. And we're getting, I think it's 2 new spells. We get a deeper look at one of his major healing spell. We finally find out what the heck he's doing with the refrigerator box in his alley.
Yes.
And it's almost like I planned this, Heather. But the things that happen in duplicity build into critical resources in DECOY.
Nice.
And then I'm trying not to spoil anything too bad, but there is a scene where the hints and little flickers that I've been dropping for 2 books finally culminate into an actual spell. And it's in that moment that we see what Eli is really capable of doing if he cuts loose. Because every spell he's used, slip and slide, now I'm blanking. The squid root vine spell, the Zippo spell. Everything he's been doing has been kind of utility and defense.
Yeah.
Nothing is really an attack spell. And of course, we've got Razcombe constantly going, get a fireball, get a fireball, get a fireball.
Yes.
And that little spider inhabiting imp just won't shut up about how important a fireball would be. And how important it is to basically roast everybody in existence around Eli.
Well, but
we finally...
There's nothing like a good fireball spell, though.
Yeah, exactly. And that's good. And I seem to recall there is something very close to a fireball spell in this one.
Yes.
Yes, there is. There is. Big fire explosion. This book is way more combat. Way more combat.
Ooh.
And I think that's part of the reason why he develops finally this new first attack spell. And it is such a thing where the person he is facing has been a power as long as we've known them. And suddenly the power has to step back in fear.
Ooh.
And such a good scene.
Nice.
And it's a tiny thing. Eli's opponent, he just takes a step back. But backward is not this character's speed. So it's just a great thing.
It's one of those things where tiny motion carries so much meaning. Oh,
yeah. I got to throw in the hats from Big Trouble in Little China. I made them into magical items for a couple things. That was really great. We're introduced into female. So Smile, Seufert Fells Magical Law Enforcement. Well, we introduce federal magical law enforcement or female. And Agent Clint Davis, which is the wild card of wild cards when it comes to federal agents. And he's an absolute blast. The last thing I think I should pick up on here, and I'm cherry picking, obviously, to not give away story, is that good old Duval apparently has an extortion contract with other people than Eli, and
Mhm.
he strong arms a bouncer that he has leverage on into becoming Eli's bodyguard.
Ah, yes. I remember seeing descriptions on the Kickstarter page.
Yeah, and that is AJ Stone, and
Uh-huh.
AJ Stone is he's our new lead character.
Uh-huh.
Not to take over the Dumpstermancer series,
Right.
but AJ is the new lead for Dumpstermancer Guardian, a spinoff.
Hmm. Oh, so
Um,
we're getting a spin-off too. Oh, I'm
so
super
yeah,
excited.
the
I
world
need
is
to
not dead; it's still growing.
Yes. I
Um,
absolutely need to read faster.
I need to
I was
write faster.
You're writing at a perfectly reasonable speed, at least for the speed at which I read. I'm such a slow reader and I hate it. But
Well, if it did take me 5 years to go from 2 to 3, I'm kind of ashamed. Even with going blind,
now, did you
but
write was Decoy written before all of this happened, or did you write it over the course of trying to adapt to losing your sight?
ooh,
Or was it kind of halfway?
I think I think I raced to finish Decoy before the surgery on my last good eye.
Hmm.
So it was done before I went blind.
Hmm.
Minion, are you still here? No minions. Okay. Um, I know that Mom Atomic 1 was written right before the surgery.
Hmm.
Um, but I think Decoy was mostly finished.
Hmm.
Probably mostly finished. I was still probably going through edits, sending it out to my sensitivity and my ethnic readers
Right.
to make the language right and to get all the characterizations good. I don't
Hmm.
normally have a problem with that, but I like having the second set of eyes on it.
Oh yeah. My screen went funny for a second. All right, there we go. All right. So my
Well, I'm
next
on it. Of course, it's funny.
next question, and you can go into whatever level of depth you want to with your answer to this question. I don't want to push into areas you don't want to answer. But once you lost your sight, how did you adapt? How long did it take you to get back to writing, and what did you do to sort of find your new way of doing this? Because I don't think it was ever an idea in your mind to just stop writing. Um,
Well, it did kind of kick me in the teeth. Um,
well, as one would expect.
I, I'm not saying that makes me special. It did definitely did kick me in the teeth.
Hmm.
Um, you you actually referred to me to a friend of yours who's also blind,
Hmm.
and she was a great help. My mentor referred me to somebody else who was blind, who was maybe not as good a help.
Hmm.
Um, uh, I have an emotional support lightsaber, um,
Everyone needs
which
one of those.
well, I mean, really, and it's a heavy combat lightsaber, which I bought before I went blind. But it was basically the idea or gift, quasi idea of my mentor as a, yeah, you really are a writer. Yeah, you really should be doing this. And yeah, you're going to go far.
Hmm.
So, holding and making lightsaber or having the thing make lightsaber sounds reminds me that I have good reviews on books and people like my work and I should not stop and I
Yep,
shouldn't let anything stop me.
absolutely.
Um, but it was hard.
Hmm.
Um, there are so many things that I have often felt inadequate to, and things that were simple before.
Right.
Making soup on a stove,
Hmm.
um, so, making stir fry in the wok,
Hmm.
which normally goes along with a bunch of flipping. I can't flip pancakes or eggs or whatever in a pan easily anymore.
Hmm.
I can't see how much spice I'm adding to foods I love. Um, and that's just cooking.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't read the books in my library. I can't drive to the store. Or I can barely walk a couple blocks to a local store, and only if there's enough sunlight out.
Hmm.
Um, dressing myself, figuring out what I'm wearing, getting my fingers off on the keyboard while I'm trying to write because I'm an old school touch typist,
Mm.
and then realizing that I have 2.5 pages of stuff that I've got to go back and figure out. Okay, where was my hand and where was it supposed to be, and
Oh.
what are all these words?
Hmm. Yeah, that's
Then you go
rough.
into that's ugly. That is super ugly. I did discover that there is a keystroke combination for taking entire paragraphs that were all done in caps and making them not caps.
Oh.
Because I did that
Hmm.
because I didn't know the caps lock was on.
Right.
I've worked with multiple screen readers trying to get the right thing so that I could listen to the books
Hmm.
and edit that way, but it's so slow. I've got to let the reader read, and then I got to stop it when I hear an error, and then I got to use Control and Alt and Shift and arrow keys in different combinations to find the paragraph,
Hmm.
and I have to let it read the whole paragraph because if I do
Oh.
anything else, it stops and I have to start from the beginning. Same thing
Right.
with emails and like Facebook Messenger. If something happens, like a new email comes in, the notification will start talking at me, having interrupted, whoever
Right.
sent me. Well, and I got to start over
Hmm.
and over and over again. And then once I figure out what paragraph it is, I got to use those same combinations to find the right line, then find the right word, and then go through the word which is being mispronounced by the screen reader because it has the wrong letters,
Yeah.
and letter by letter, and figure out what is the right one. Then I got to do that with every homophone or homonym I use there, and there.
Hmm.
And
Oh yeah.
the editing process is unreal now.
Hmm.
And it used to be I just skim through, right?
Yeah.
Just skim read through while standard editing. And now editing takes like 5, 6 times.
Hmm.
I used to read out loud to various people so that I could hear it spoken,
Hmm.
and catch the stuff in my ear. That is after my daughter grew up and became an adult and didn't want to
Hmm.
read to daddy anymore. Um, she still does, but only she's got that whole adult life thing going on.
Oh yeah.
I don't know why. I mean, obviously, she just needs to dote on me. Anyway, the process is much harder. I said read out loud. There was something. I'm sorry.
Do you
There was
find
something about. Go ahead.
that, do you find that the assistive technologies you're using are affecting the style in which you write? Because it occurred to me, like I was thinking about when you were mentioning that one of your technologies had to read an entire paragraph at once. Like I automatically thought, oh, if I had to do that, I would automatically just start writing shorter paragraphs. So that it wouldn't have to go through nearly as much when I was editing. Do you find that that is beginning to shift how you write, or do you find that your writing style is pretty much the same and it just takes longer to edit?
No, it's pretty much the same. Doing it like you were suggesting would actually make editing it harder
Really? Why
because
so?
if I'm not telling the reader to read the whole page, I've got to use a control down arrow to go paragraph by paragraph.
Oh, okay. That makes
So
sense.
that means I have to have my fingers on the keys the whole time.
Mhm,
Whereas it's nice to be able to go control down and then listen to 5, 6 sentences of paragraph
mhm.
and focus on the story rather than focus on the controls.
Right.
Um,
Is there
reading out loud.
Oh,
That
yes.
Go ahead.
I was gonna ask, is there a particular piece of assistive technology that has been particularly helpful, for you? Or are you still
I'm
kinda feeling
using
your way?
I so because I have multiple technologies I use to do the writing, I have to use a couple different ones. I use
Mhm,
NVDA as my primary, which is usually pretty good, but it won't work on Norton at all. So when the antivirus wants to talk to me, I've got screens I can't read.
ah,
Um, it won't work for me in Discord anymore as of that last patch.
mm,
Um, and unless I go around my elbow to get into my Discord server.
mhm,
Um, so there's one browser that will read some of the stuff to me in
mhm,
Discord, but not. There are a lot of websites, especially like Facebook, that are really hard to work with the screen reader,
mhm,
because every time it hovers over something new, it starts talking and interrupts what it was saying. So if I put it on a nice big long article or a page and set it to read, and then I bump the keyboard and the mouse moves and it goes
Oh
over
no.
a letter, it stops and I got to just go all the way back to the beginning. And then I start reading it again and an email comes in and that notification stops and I've got to go all the way back to the beginning. And, particularly with really, really, really long paragraphs on like web articles and things where it's really hard to find where I was.
Yeah.
The thing I was saying about reading out loud is I can't do book readings anymore. I had just gotten set up to start doing little snippet reads on
Right.
YouTube and TikTok, and now I can't.
Right.
So that was another change in what I was doing. And then there's covers.
Yes.
I have really great cover artists, and luckily I found them before I went blind, and I trust them pretty well. But even so, when I'm developing a new cover for a new series,
It's
I
difficult
can't
when you can't
see
see
what
it.
happened. I can't see what the artist. I did just recently buy like a comics artist tracing light box where you put something on top of a bright light and then paper and then trace.
Right.
And I'm hoping that much backlighting will give me some sight into the cover. But it also means I got to take the proposed cover down to a Kinko's and paint it on color paper, print it on colored paper.
Yeah, which is a whole other step.
So since I do publish some of my stuff, and I actually have contracts with some trad publishers where I bring the cover and get a slightly higher royalty, I like bringing my own cover artists, but it's hard to figure out what I'm doing now.
Yeah, that is a challenge. Your covers are great though, so
I try really, really hard.
You have my assurance. But yeah, but it's been really interesting just to hear from my end all the stuff you've done to try to get through this and push through this, because you are pushing through it and it's hard, but you've also come a very long way in just 2 years. And I have faith that you'll continue to push through.
I get to go to official blind school in October. I'm very excited.
Oh, really? So what's involved in that then? I'm curious because I'm not what's involved in going to this school, because I'm not familiar with the specifics of it.
So basically, it's an inpatient facility where I have my own room, kitchenette, bathroom, whatnot, and I can go to a cafeteria and eat if I'm unwilling to cook myself. But it's basically ground up training for everything there is to be blind.
Oh,
and they've got apparently they've got workshops with like table saws and woodworking and 3D printers. And I'm like, you're teaching blind people how to use table saws? How is this not a bad idea?
I know. That perplexes me.
I know. but I mean, it's cool. I mean, remember when I said I couldn't make soup at first? Well, I ended up, finding some special kind of, I can grab the meat off the barbecue type gloves.
Right.
So that I can cook with those. And I have chainmail gloves for when I'm using my knives.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, I've been finding little toys and little gadgets and little ways, but now I get to go to a place where they know all the ways.
Right.
They've promised me a cool little device that I can scan clothes and it'll tell me what the color is.
Oh, that's cool.
I tried basically those old VR goggle things you put your phone in to maybe see if I couldn't see a little bit better, but apparently they've got even better than that.
Oh, wow.
So I go there, they teach me the computers and the laptops and the tablets and everything else, and I take everything home with me. So whatever technology they give me comes home. Whatever I learn on comes home. So
that's so helpful, man. I'm excited for you.
I am really excited because I like my toys. like any other tech geek that you've ever met. But
most morning chainmail gloves, because we've got Brandon in the comments saying chainmail gloves. That's genius, and it's like I'm always cutting myself whenever I'm cooking myself, and I can see, and it's like chainmail gloves could solve that problem for me.
But they're actually for restaurants. They're not even medieval style SCA chainmail gloves. They're a super fine Kevlar and steel mesh with reinforcement. Reinforcement around the cutting fingers, the ones you hold while you're cutting. And I just got them off Amazon.
That is so cool. I'm getting there.
The thing you should less cut, less bleeding.
Yes.
Only the readers should bleed. No, that's not fair. But the thing that really has been my saving grace is my aptitude for questions.
Hmm.
Is there something out there that I can buy that will protect my fingers? Chainmail
Right.
gloves. Is there anything out there that's a little bit finer gloves, not big old mitts that can take a lot of heat? Well,
Hmm.
this glove will let you pick the meat up and flip it on the grill with your hands.
Hmm.
You know, it's just been a lot of searching. Um, there's there's a little device apparently that I haven't played with yet that will beam out IR and tell you when things are close, kind of like the cane does.
Oh,
And
okay.
there's a cane that has one of those mounted on it in addition.
Hmm.
Um, the, I always liked Augie's little, laser box from Covert Affairs, and I wanted to find that.
Hmm.
So I kept finding resources for the blind websites,
Hmm.
which talked about tech for the
Yeah.
blind. And
And
um,
there's so much
but
neat assistive technology out there. Like just in, and I consider, like, I would consider the chainmail gloves even an assistive technology. You've got me wanting the barbecue gloves now too, because I love grilling so much. And so it's like a practical thing for me.
they
But
even come in purple.
what? Yes. Oh, I'm absolutely getting some now.
I'll send you links later.
Yes.
Um, but I mean, I keep trying stuff. I keep trying stuff. I've
Mhm.
got neon glow cord lights that are usually used for detailing cars that
Mhm.
I've tried putting up in hallways.
Oh, for better
I've got
visibility.
little wireless rechargeable light pucks with multicolors that we put the metal sticker on the wall,
Mhm.
and it's like guidelines. I'm like in an airport or Tron. I'm not quite sure which. Trying to find different technologies to give me just enough light or just enough reflection
Mhm.
to make my way. The dog's cage is on the opposite side of the living room where her treats are, and I now have a basically white carpet runner that goes across
Mhm.
my living room carpet, and I use a really bright flashlight to create enough reflection off of it that I can follow essentially a clear path,
Ah.
or a dog in the middle path, but still see
Mhm.
the dog because she's black and the carpet is white.
Mhm.
And yeah, so
Yeah,
it's
speaking
been a
of dog,
trip.
we actually have a question in the comments. Do you have a support animal, like a seeing eye dog from Howard?
I don't. I have one of my two black labs still. I
Mhm.
used to have Myth and Majesty. Myth passed about 2 years ago, so
Oh,
we're
cool.
down to Majesty, going all gray in her on her muzzle and everything else. And
Mhm.
she's the sweetest thing. And she is definitely support in a way.
Mhm.
Though most of that support is get up and get me a treat and hurry up and scratch my chest.
Yes. It's support in its own way. They're good
Um,
companions.
they
But
are.
let's see here.
And I love dogs. But as far as like a seeing eye dog, I have a seeing eye daughter. Does that count?
That
Um,
counts. Different kind of counting, but
well, Majesty is getting old, and
Mhm.
I was starting to do many more cons and move toward being a little bit more full time as a writer. So I
Right.
was kind of looking at not replacing her when she passed,
Mhm.
so that I didn't have to deal with the extra expense and a heartache of having to leave the dog behind or leave her in a
Right.
kennel and whatnot. Um, and so when we started talking about guide dogs, I was like, I don't know that we need a new animal in the house.
Mhm.
I mean, I've been out of work for 9 months now with the whole blindness thing,
Mhm.
and I don't I don't want to get an animal that I can't make sure it has all the vet stuff and
Right.
has food and obviously treats. Treats are important. Um, and
Yes, true.
I don't
Definitely.
at this stage I don't have enough training to go walking around a city,
Right.
and that to me is where the guide animal would show its value. Now,
Mhm.
that being said, I don't know a lot about guide animals, so they may have other functions that than guiding you across streets and on sidewalks and making sure you don't run in the road.
Mhm.
But guide dog has always been in my brain like that.
Mhm.
So
And that's always something
um,
they could probably tell you more about at the school you're going to later as well. So
yeah, and
there's
apparently
lots.
all the instructors we get one-on-one instructors that are already vision impaired and
Oh,
have
wow.
been for a while. So
Uh-huh.
it is a quite literally blind leading the blind school, um, in a good way. In a good way.
In a very useful way. Yeah, because they're, I mean, they're, if they've been blind that long, they're the experts on how to adapt. And
yeah, I'm pretty sure I don't even know how to use my stick, and my daughter keeps yelling at me when I try to swipe people's ankles when they're cutting me off. Apparently, letting people cut you off in a grocery store is just what you're supposed to do when you're blind. So I'm like, look, I'm the one with the stick here, and I have a legitimate reason for saying, "Oops."
Oh yeah, I would absolutely.
I didn't see you there.
Yeah.
I'm
all right. Let's see. Howard says all this
back
tech
on
is
track.
It really is. Yeah. And let's see. We got a few comments in the chat here. And Richie is with us. Richie's one of our regulars, and he says, "Hey, live on my birthday. Let's go! Happy birthday, Richie!" And we got a comment from Nobu Akuma, who says, "I really think that Eli and Sunny's dynamic is fun," which is actually a really good comment to get us back to Dumpstermancer, because I think their dynamic is fun too. Because like Eli's a grumpy character, and I kind of love that about him. And Sunny lives up to her name. See, she is kind of I wouldn't call her like not necessarily a sunshine character, because she has to be tough with Eli. But I really love, like, she really wants to help him, but he really doesn't want to be helped. And so there's this constant like benevolent antagonism, I guess.
Oh yeah.
And
Eli hates Sunny. He hates Sunny.
Tell us a bit about
and
Sunny.
I say that with a chuckle because he doesn't really hate Sunny. And I know what's being said about their dynamic, and I'm staying mum on that one. But she has already proven. What?
Before we continue, for the people who haven't read the book, because I don't think we've discussed her character yet, give us a brief rundown on who Sunny is in the series.
Okay, Marisol Sunny Terrell is the manager, leader, owner of a homeless shelter a few blocks away from Eli's alley called The Manger. And she is very religious, very confident, very sweet, even though Eli made her cry the first time he met her. Didn't he? Pretty sure he did.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And it is her crusade to help, well, pretty much everybody.
Yes.
She also employs one of the best cooks in the city, but we'll come back to Grace later. Because Grace is actually important in DECOY. But Sunny is bright and chipper and absolutely too stubborn for Eli. He's like, I don't want your handouts. I don't want this. I don't want that. Oh, well, I hope somebody finds this food. Walk off.
Yep.
And these wool socks. And then there are several points where Eli gets in trouble, and all of a sudden Sunny walks in, and she is a shark of a lawyer. And we have never seen that in her personality at all. But I mean, she is just all teeth.
Oh yeah. She's ferocious.
And then
when she needs to.
I think the funniest part of their dynamic is how Sunny interacts with Jackson and Cynthia Graham, Eli's parents. Cynthia is absolutely certain that they're half a betrothal away from grandchildren. And Sunny's really sweet to them because she's just really sweet all the time.
Yeah.
But that whole shark personality, that fire and ice, I guess, or sunshine and storm, that might be better. Is such the paradigm between her. And even when Eli made her cry again, she called down to Los Angeles and brought up another shark lawyer to represent him because he refused to let her do it. She is just constantly looking out for Eli.
Yeah.
And I can't say that, and I can't say that.
Yes, sir. Spoilers.
Yeah.
It's hard to have an interview about a book 3 in a series and not talk about spoilers. But it's the great challenge. All of y'all should just go read the series.
Let's just say that book 3 is going to show a much more evolved relationship.
Nice. Oh, I'm excited.
And not necessarily in what you in the way you expect.
I've got the copy you sent me sitting on my Kindle right now, and it's going to be my next read. So I am pumped for it. I want to talk about the magic system, because I think the magic system you came up with is so cool. Like it's I mean, if I oversimplify it, I say they can basically go to an Apple store and buy magic. I mean, that's kind of the vibe it gives off. But there's a lot of complexity in how the magic is actually executed, especially like when you see Eli basically going through his trash and trying to use these components he finds in the dumpster to weave magical spells and put things together. It's so what led you to come up with this specific type of magic system?
Well, so Eli is in many ways the Alton Brown of magic. Like
Hmm.
Alton Brown, whose science is his cooking, Eli thinks that magic is all explainable by science.
Hmm.
So first off, there are the basics, the circles. And I'm not going to go into it very deeply, but there is now in all copies that are releasing of the Dumpstermancer, there is a guide to arcanology in the back that goes
Oh,
over how the circles work, how the shapes work, how the frequency, and so, for example, a fifth res circle. A circle must be a closed loop that can pass the equivalent of electrical current. It doesn't matter what its shape or size is. It just
hmm,
has to be a closed circuit.
hmm,
So, a fifth resonance circle has a specific frequency resonance which blocks out physical matter
hmm.
and at varying magnitude can even block out air.
Ooh.
Um, and that's the fifth res. And I want to say the fifth res is also the one that smells like burnt popcorn, but I'm not remembering without my guide. But there are in book one, there are 7 resonances of magic. One that blocks magic going out, one that blocks magic going in, one that blocks physical going in or out, one that blocks basically ghosts,
Hmm.
um, one that allows for thaumaturgic transfer. That's what Eli uses for his food printer spell,
Hmm.
um, where two things are linked and he links those to create kind of a transference.
Hmm.
Um, Sixth and seventh are the energy barriers, non-magical energy, so like fire,
Hmm.
electricity. In book 2, we discover eighth resonance, which is the one used in the blue boxes that allows for teleportation.
Hmm.
Um, it it is actually paired. So eighth pairs with 3 in the way that they work.
Uh-huh.
They're pretty much all pairs, and those circles are the very most basic of magic,
Right.
but they're used specifically to design bigger magic
Hmm.
items, incantations, spells that you know are usually a representative of various elements of the various elements and the various elements that tie to us the effect of the spell.
Right.
But even with those elements as components and whatnot, there are still runes and symbols and whatnot,
Hmm.
and that's so the first class of magic is just the circles, um, and I just thought that they should exist. I guess there's not a better answer. From there, of course, it's a world of magic, and
Yeah.
it's a world of magic that used to include the Fae. So there
Mhm.
have to be more spells than just circles. And I mean, don't get me wrong, Eli does miracles with those stupid circles,
Oh
and
yeah.
he is constantly coming up with a new way to use the circle to bail him out of whatever trouble he's in.
I
But
like the
then there's
inventiveness of his character because he takes some really crappy situations and literal junk and like you said works miracles with them. Like his inventiveness is one of the most fun things to read about in this series.
Well, and when we come to the spells that we were basically just talking about, some being more physical than others, um, the iterations, him
Mhm.
iterating the magic through different versions, it goes back to his roots as a research
Mhm.
archaeologist. Um, and you remember what happened with the first slip and slide, right? He basically dropped a gelatinous cube of KY jelly on his head, and all he
Yes.
was trying to do is get a greasy surface spell. Um, yeah, good, bad, no. How many times did he burn his hands with working on the spell for the Zippo for absorbing fire because people kept throwing Molotov cocktails at him. I
Yeah.
mean, every spell he comes up with. Now, we don't always see all the iterations, but we do see a lot of them. And I
Mhm.
love that about Eli. I love that
Mhm.
he goes into a situation, he uses the spell, and while everything else is, going to hell, he's like, I need to iterate that again.
Yep.
We can make this better.
Yep. I
And
completely relate to that.
and that's a core philosophy of his that we don't necessarily see immediately in his otherwise personality, but it is
Mhm.
absolutely a core personality.
Yeah, it is. He's
Let's
got so
make
much
things
other
better.
stuff going on that it's slow to emerge. And the thing, one of the things that and this is a little bit off topic, but one of the things that I really like about the way you wrote Eli is he he goes through some genuine rough stuff, and you see him suffer. And it's like as a reader, you feel so bad for him as he goes through this stuff, and the way you write it, sometimes he gets himself into situations where, as the reader, you don't think he's gonna get like main character plot armor. Like you write him in such a way that he feels like he's in genuine danger the entire time in this novel, and that's something that doesn't happen in a lot of, especially fantasy novels, because the main characters always seem to have that sort of the even a little modicum of plot armor about them. But Eli, it's like Eli just keeps getting kicked and keeps getting back up, and it makes it a really, like, it's a really fun read, but it's also a really intense read because you don't know
Yeah.
what badness is going to happen to him.
Well, so I like my protagonists not to be quite as stupid as the average. It's better when they make fewer of the stupid mistakes that have us readers going, "Are you an idiot? Can't you see this?" Not that he doesn't still make some because of his own internal biases,
Mhm,
but you're right. I do tend to write, in general, really, much more gritty, more realistic scenarios.
mhm,
And I've run into some situations where I've written scenarios that I really didn't want to write
mhm.
because they were bad people doing bad things, and I really didn't want to go there.
Right.
But there are bad people.
Yeah.
I can guarantee you that you will see something like that in Decoy. Not too bad, but still, it's pretty harsh on the body horror scale.
Mhm.
Um,
Ooh. I do like some
uh,
good body horror every now and then. Like some really well placed body horror can just make a book pop sometimes.
well, I don't remember what the number is, but I obviously I always say that Dumpstermancer is for 18 and up because of Eli's mouth.
Yeah,
But
that's fair.
but when I was setting up Decoy and for the Kickstarter, I had to kind of talk about what its level was, its rating level was,
Right.
and I was like, how many decapitations can I get before it goes above R?
Oh.
Spoiler.
Yeah. Well, see, and the thing is, I don't consider them like they're definitely gritty books, but they're not gritty in a way that I would feel uncomfortable giving them to a mature young adult. And so it's that's one of the hardest things about being an author who writes this kind of content. It's like what is the limit? Like, how do you rate this? And, ah,
Well, and as a parent, I'm conscientious of not ruining somebody else's parenting
right.
by by slipping in something
Hmm.
as a surprise. I
Right.
mean, I had a really young reader once at LibertyCon come up that wanted to buy a book, and I'm like, this is too mature for you, and her parents backed her. Oh, she watches Game of Thrones all the time. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Oh
At
yeah.
that point, I'm like, shrug. Okay, you know what? I'm done.
Yeah.
Because what's in my book is
I always make sure to ask parents whenever I have young kids interested in my stuff too. And very often, like, I'll mention that there's bad language, and with the kind of crowd that I hang out with, the parents are usually something like, "Oh, she grew up with Marines, she's fine." So bad language is not an issue in some
fair,
things. Yeah,
fair, but
but
a comment like she watches Game of Thrones, I'm like, shoot, I didn't go anywhere near that amount of sex.
it's
You're
fine.
good. Have fun.
Yes. All right. We're
No
getting
sex
close
in
to
Dumpstermancer.
yes. So we're getting pretty close to wrapping up. And so I wanted to go just do a little bit about the Kickstarter, the reward tiers. So there are 3 different sort of ways the rewards are structured. You've got the digital track, you've got the physical track, and then the merch track. And so there's a whole bunch of ways that a whole bunch of different reward types you guys can get from by contributing to this Kickstarter. You want to tell them a bit about some of the rewards?
I will. So first off, this Kickstarter is me relaunching myself back into the public eye. Like Heather said, it's been several years of going blind and dealing with it, and I feel like I've got enough of it under my belt and under my control that it's time to start putting books back out there. So part of that has been researching new ways to launch books, and Kickstarter was one of the main ones. I actually had a couple classes on doing Kickstarters before I went blind. So that's why I'm on Kickstarter for the most part, is to celebrate coming back and showing everybody that, yes, I'm back, and yes, I've got new books, and yes, this is going to be good.
And we're glad
that's my kind of what?
And we're glad to have you back.
Me too. So it's my kind of hopeful Kickstarter, which is also hopefully going to pay for the getting back the narrator for the Dumpstermancers we've already got for another Audible or another audio run. This one will not be going to Audible. We're going to try to pay for him completely, so we don't have to do an Audible share, and then we can go into libraries and stuff. That's really important to me too, because I grew up poor and homeless, which is why I write Dumpstermancer. Reward tiers.
You've had such an adventurous life, man. That could be a whole other thing. That could be a whole other panel.
You're the one that is shortening us to an hour. I'll keep going.
I mean, you can go longer if you want to. I'm totally cool with going over. So we can chatter about that once we finish talking about the Kickstarter.
Okay.
So rewards.
We designed the rewards so that if you're a digital only or if you're international, you can get pretty much anything you want through the digital tier. That includes either 1 book or 3 books. We're doing audio commentaries for this, and I got to tell you, audio commentaries blind is a real challenge, because you're supposed to read the book and then talk about what's going on in the chapter or whatever, and I can't take notes. I have to do it literally, read a chapter, record a chapter kind of thing, or try to do it all in one go, which it might be challenging, but we'll see. And I haven't done the audio commentaries yet. I'm going to be doing them here next week. So we have audio commentaries. We have some digital art. My artist was nice enough to promise to give me some wallpaper backgrounds of the first 3 covers, which is going to be good. We have DECOY as the ebook. We have Discarded and Duplicity as ebooks. Now, one of the cool things about what I'm doing with this Kickstarter is I didn't limit it to just Dumpstermancer. Some of the tiers have much broader spectrums of ebooks. For example, we have an urban get all the urban fantasies tier, which is all of the Blood Phoenix, the completed Blood Phoenix series, on top of the 3 Dumpstermancers. Other stuff has got absolutely everything. I'm going to sidetrack a little bit. The add-ons have almost everything, including out-of-print books that I still have here at house.
That's cool.
First editions that I did the art for them before I realized that I suck at it and started hiring good artists. The next tier is the physical tier. The physical tier includes paperbacks and hardbacks. They're not the jacket wrap hardbacks, so the case laminates I normally do for the Dumpstermancer. And well, pretty much all my urban fantasies are use these. They're kind of like the old school books we used to have, glossy on top, nice and tough, so they don't break and you don't rip stuff so easily. There's an add-on that goes into each of the physical tiers that is a little unusual, and that is ebook cards. So what I developed, I think a year or 2 ago, is I have 4x6 solid cards that are minion here. No, okay, so I don't have an example. Sorry. They have the cover on the front. They have a short description on the back, and then they have instructions. and ultimately an add-on sticker with a redemption code so that you can go and redeem the ebook. It's pretty much the same as the digital ebook because it's the ebook. You're redeeming it the same way, but it gives you a keepsake. And if you really want it, at least at the conventions, I actually have a little removable label that we put over the description that I can autograph the ebook card.
Oh, that's cool.
So if somebody comes up to me at a panel, and in this case, the Kickstarter, they can buy something for somebody and have it, and they have it autographed. And then if they don't want the autograph because they just don't like the sticker with the label, they can pull it off, and they've still got this really cool card that they can keep a catalog of. I mean, after the redemption card is used, it's just really a keepsake. But it's like those cells from movies, right?
Yeah.
At least that was my idea. So all of the physical tiers come with a ebook card equivalent of whatever you're getting. So if you get discarded, then you get a discarded ebook card on top of it. That way you can have the book, you can be reading it in bed, and obviously because you're reading my stuff, you can't put it down until it's like 5 in the morning. You have to go to bed at least for a couple hours sleep. And if you run off to work in the morning and forget your book, you've got the ebook at the same time. So you can read at lunch to keep you awake. I always thought that was just a great idea, having both. But anyway,
that's neat.
So that's most for the basic physical tiers. We have the paperbacks, the hardbacks, and the ebook cards. There's not an excuse me. There's not an ebook card only tier because I just didn't think anybody cared. But in the add-ons, you can actually buy the individual ebook cards if you want them. And if you request them autographed, I've got no problem in autographing them. The paperbacks and hardbacks will be autographed, pretty much as default. Then there's the merch tier. So we brought a couple interesting things to the merch tier. First off, we have the campaign exclusive character cards. These cards show the DECOY Dumpstermancer logo on one side of the card, and the back side has an image of the 3D model I had generated for each character and a bio of the character in the book. So we will probably do character cards in the future if we do more Dumpstermancers, but they will never again have the DECOY image on the front side.
Ooh.
So
those
are kind of, they're exclusive to the con, period exclusive. You know, as in I don't intend to print any more than I have to, kind of thing.
Right.
Excuse me a second, Heather. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're fine. I love how many authors are beginning to do cards and trading card like things. It just, the collector in me sees those and is like, I want them.
Okay. I don't know whether this is cover or back.
That's back.
That's
back?
looks like back. It's words.
Okay.
That's the front. Move
Okay.
it.
So that's.
Okay. Turn it back around and then move it to your left a little bit. Okay. You're showing the word side again.
Okay. Right. So that's left. And
That's
you
the
said turn
word.
it around.
Yeah. Okay. Now we can see it. It was half cut off on the screen. So yes, that's the one for Dumpstermancer 2. For Duke.
Oh, it's got the mask on. Cool.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I love that cover. I love that cover a lot.
Too.
So those are the ebook cards. We were talking about the character cards. The next thing we have in the merchandise list was inspired by Heather, and that is Oh yeah, absolutely. I had tried doing stickers and static clings at cons, and I was buying them in big job lots of 100, and nobody really wanted them. So we kind of went all in on your buy 20 at a time thing that you do for your Patreon.
Oh yeah.
And so we're featuring 13 stickers for this campaign.
Ooh.
We have a brand new sticker for discarded, which is the Eye Sentinel charm. So the shield charm that people wear, that they put little shields on them over in the Dumpstermancer, is now a sticker if you want it. We have the duplicity mask, which we just showed on the character card, just the mask and a little bit of its magic. We have the medallion from DECOY, the Guardian medallion. And there's a trick to the Guardian medallion, and I'm not going to tell you what it is.
Oh, it's one of those things you have to read the book for. So everyone read the book.
Well, reading the book would help. Reading the book will Reading the book will be a clue, but it won't necessarily solve what I did.
Oh, so there's more. Is this like
there,
in the series kind of thing?
What about the series?
Is this like the mystery will be solved in later books in the series kind of thing? Like it builds?
Kind of.
Nice.
So if you don't notice the trick, it'll be explained to you eventually.
Okay.
Next, we have the 5 phoenixes from my Blood Phoenix Chronicles. The Water Phoenix Kayla, the Blood Phoenix Vitae, the Air Phoenix Calum, the Fire Phoenix Ignis, and the Earth Phoenix Terra.
Mm-hmm.
So those are cool. We have Drake, the Cherry Coke Addicted Dragon.
Yes.
And we now have Chibi Drake, who is absolutely adorable.
Even
Are you
better.
handing me stickers?
I'm handing you a normal Drake. I don't.
Okay, so that's a normal Drake?
Yes.
Is it in the center?
It's to the right. Move it a little left. Oh, now
back.
it's now it's close to the camera. Move it a little more left. It's not quite in the center, but we can see it. It looks good. I like it.
Okay, so this is going to be a fun party game for me in future. But so we have, right, Chibi Drake and Chibi Lenia showed up in the, yeah. So, and we have Chibi Lenia, who is the other character on the first of the Murder Wizard, or the first of the Bittergate Dragon Revolution books, because she's a cute, adorable little thing in that sticker, I swear. Drake, Lenia. So that's 11. So there's 2 more. Oh, the 2 more are the Mom Power superhero logo for Mom Atomic.
Ooh.
And the Raise the Flavor logo from the Resurrection Taqueria Demon Taco Truck from Taco Truck Tammy.
Did you say Demon Taco Truck?
I did.
Yes.
I told you about Taco Truck Tammy, didn't I?
Yeah, you told me about
Legally
Taco
Blonde meets Scooby-Doo.
Yeah. I didn't know there was a demon taco truck though. That's just this every little bit of information I hear about this series makes me want to read it more and more.
We're getting there. First book's done. I'm working on the sequels.
Oh,
the problem with these is they're short release, so I need to put a bunch of them together before I start releasing them. Because otherwise people will be like, man, I rented a book and I want more. Well, I want them to have more. So, you know, that, and once I get 3 of the Mom Atomics or 3 of the Taco Truck Tammys, then I bundle them into an omnibus paperback, and then the people that really want paper can have paper.
Yeah.
Right? That makes sense to me. So that's the 13 stickers. Then there are the enamel lapel pins. And the enamel lapel pins are basically the same without a few of the add-ons. So you've got all 3 for Dumpstermancer, the Eye Sentinel Shield Charm, the Guardian Medallion, and the Duplicity Mask, which I got out of order. The 5 Phoenixes, Drake. What?
I'm handing you a Caleb pin.
Caleb pin. I don't think show and tell is working, to be honest with you. Do we have a duplicity pin or a decoy pin?
Not up here.
Not up here? Okay. So yeah, pins. I'm not going to try and be really fancy with this one because they're small. And those are just awesome. And really, I mostly made them for me.
There's nothing like a good pin.
Well, you know my author attire, and that includes my lanyard, which is festooned with pins of things I love. Well, now I've got 9 pins of my own stuff. So I'm really excited about that. On top of that, for the reward tiers, there's like a choose 5 stickers for $10, or a choose all sticker for I don't remember what. There's a choose 4 pins, 3 pins. There's a choose a number of pins, or there's a get them all pins tier, which knocks some of the costs off of it and combines some of the shipping costs that are integrated into the tier costs. And then there are the mega tier bundles, and they are insane. In fact, the Kickstarter wouldn't launch because we had 86 items in a single tier.
Oh,
and Kickstarter said, no, you can't have more than 50.
Oh man!
So we had to do a little creation and like all pins,
Mhm.
all stickers, you know, so that we weren't itemizing it down to the last drop.
Mhm.
I
I
And
didn't
one
realize
of the
there was
things
a limit on Kickstarter. That's useful to know.
I didn't know it until early today. It was a pain because it didn't say what the problem was. It just said that we couldn't launch.
Oh.
It said there's a problem, and we're looking at the list that has all the green check marks. Says you're good to go, and I'm like,
Yeah.
we ran into it by accident, which was good. So we figured it out. We'll know for next time. There are various deluxe tiers in ebook and physical and merch that combine them all. There's a super deluxe, I forget what we called it, mega tier that has pretty much absolutely everything except there's one item that doesn't go into the top super expensive tier.
Mhm.
And that is volunteer to be 86th.
Mhm.
So the volunteer 86 tier is a paperback of DECOY, ebook card of DECOY, the Guardian sticker, the audio commentaries, the character cards, I'm pretty sure, and being in DECOY itself,
Mhm.
getting a Tuckerization into the DECOY novel,
Oh, that's fun.
and we got 3 of those. Oh, actually, we got 2 of them left so far.
Oh yeah, that was one of the
Um,
first ones to go, wasn't it? The first.
that was my first my first backer jumped straight into the Tuckerization. After the campaign closes, whoever gets them has basically 72 hours to give me names, colors, genders, orientations, races, any kind of demographic info you want to
Mhm.
customize this character. And once I get the information, I will dig back into the book and I will put them in. And none of the characters that are slotted to be taken over by a Tuckerization are death flagged.
Mhm.
That's an important part of that. So you are
Mhm.
not dying in DECOY. I make no promises past that.
Nice. So there's a whole bunch of stuff to select, and I like that there's a huge variety of tiers too. Like you've got everything from a $1 tier to $100 to $1,000. I mean, there's something for everybody, you guys. So there's
I kind of
plenty.
think I overdid it.
Well, I like having lots of options and on things like this. And so yeah, there's plenty of tiers to choose from, plenty of cool stuff to choose from. I might actually go change my pledge to one of the merch things because you got me on the stickers and the cards. I have to think on it. There's so much neat stuff. But I got excited and just impulse made a pledge without any without actually selecting a tier and just was like, here it is. And so now this actual interview has made me want to go back and do more.
I figured it was just a decision-making issue. You were gonna, use. I think when you pledge like that, you get to use that money as credit on like the add-ons and things.
Oh, really?
So I just think
I did all that Kickstarter, so I have no idea how Kickstarter works except give money to people and authors and things that I like, and so
me
yeah.
either, but I'm learning. So
Yeah.
but like I've done the pledge wallet a number of times with
Mhm.
projects that maybe I wasn't quite interested in, but I was interested in the person, and
Yeah.
ended up being hounded by their backer kit application trying to get me to pick what I want when I don't want anything.
Yeah.
So that's the basics for the reward tiers.
Mhm.
Now, my story page for the campaign should pretty much answer any question you could possibly ask. It shows what our intended and hopeful budget is going to be. It shows every series that's on there
Mhm.
that's available via the add-ons. And there again, there are things that are not necessarily easily gotten or even available.
Like the
The
out of print
Bittergate
stuff.
and
Mhm.
the out of print first editions. We've got other ebooks in there that will never be books because they're short stories, novellas, novettas.
Ooh.
I think we put together, and if we didn't put it together, we were looking at an add-on bundle for it. The Crossways book, along with its 2 prequels,
Mhm.
which are prequel novellas. So basically, the origins of that character and some really fun stuff.
Right.
But yeah, there's several FAQs I put together. Shipping in the U.S. is included. because this is my first time. I'm not shipping anywhere outside the U.S. unless it's digital, which isn't really shipping.
Yeah.
We're actually also looking at, when you're talking about out of print, we're actually looking at putting our entire inventory of book shirts up. That
Mhm.
we have like Phoenix shirts, and we have a Duplicity mask shirt in 2 designs and stuff like that.
Mhm.
That we might add to the add-ins. I don't know. It depends on if people say that they want them.
Yeah.
I think that's all I can think of at the moment.
Yeah.
Lots
And
of
that's
information on
already a
that
lot.
page.
Plenty. There's a ton of stuff on that page. All right. So we have covered the Kickstarter. Now I want to backtrack a little bit. We won't go too much longer because we're just about at 9:30. But you brought up the subject of Eli's homelessness. And I distinctly remember one of the whenever I was reading Dumpstermancer the first time, I was going through this novel and I was like, oh, this is written like Michael J. Allen knows his stuff, and because there are details in the experience in Eli's experience that are just they're the kind of details that a person just can't make up. And so I was both surprised and not surprised when you told me that you had actually been homeless at one point. And so my question is, and again, this is one of those things where you can go into whatever level of detail you want to. I don't want to push. But how did your being homeless influence how you wrote his character? Because I mean, obviously it affected the detail in which you wrote him, but
well, I mean, there was finding food, acquiring condiments, which Eli does by stealing condiments from Chick-fil-A. There's the temperatures, the weather, the alcoves, sore feet, where to find spare garbage bags, pretty much everything. There's the people that want to beat you away, to harm you, to make you go away from their storefront or their alley or their property. There's the people that won't look at you. There's the people that just assume you're homeless and need money and throw money at you, even if maybe you're not even dressed badly. That happened to me several times. And there's eating. Eating is complicated. There's Eli's bag of bologna bread, right? So he's got a bag of bread where he's interspaced bologna in between the pieces, and he eats one sandwich at a time out of there. And as he eats them, he uses the packet condiments, the flavor as need be. And I did that. I also did it with tuna, which is a little harder because you have to buy the mayonnaise, but it was a better protein than the really cheap bologna. And the one thing we haven't run into with Eli, which is probably because he's smarter than I was, because I was just a teenager and he's basically 130 technically speaking.
After the wasteland,
After the wasteland, he hasn't had to deal with the sandwiches spoiling inside the bag, and then debating whether he tears off the moldy piece and eats the rest, or just has to call it a loss. Fortunately, actually, not fortunately for Eli actually started his journey as being homeless with the same amount of cash I did. I just now remembered that. I had like $50 that I got in the situation I was in to try to survive. And I mean, as a teenager, I was working like Wendy's or I worked a couple places, but and Eli's doing some of the same things that I did. He's using park bathrooms. I used park bathrooms. I had the advantage of being in high school, so I had better access to like showers and things. But a lot of what Eli goes through is stuff that I went through.
Yeah, the details are very gritty and real.
The worst part of being homeless is the isolation and the boredom. You don't have a TV.
You wouldn't even think I'd never thought about the boredom aspect of it, but you're right.
And Eli makes up the boredom by folding origami. At least after Darren gives him the slips, and
Right.
after he collects some bad paper rejects from the copy room at the library. But oh yeah, being a scavenger, getting paper from libraries, getting extra garbage cans or garbage bags rather. There's a lot to it. A lot to being homeless.
You have to think about the world in an entirely different way relative to what kind of resources are available to you.
Yep, and Eli is probably not more than 200 miles away from where I grew up. He's a good ways from where I went homeless, but so that weather, the weather in Oregon and Washington is not friendly to those outside.
Oh yeah.
And then there's the other aspects like hostile architecture, which is a thing that bureaucracies have been doing to make benches so that they're broken up so you can't lay down.
Right.
And removing the barbecue pits from parks so people can't grill at their picnic table, but the homeless can't use it for warmth or food either. Roundabouts are a construction that annoy everybody, but are mostly for dealing with homeless. Well, okay, not homeless, but beggars.
Oh, is it
because they keep
stand at intersections?
Because they keep the traffic flowing.
Right.
So nobody can stop you at a light and accost or beg from you for a handout. There's other details that are in there that most people don't know. The scratches on the signs that are a code that tell whoever wants to beg there that it's a territory, or you got to go talk to somebody who's in charge of the territory, or this is the best way to beg. These are the best signs, and there's a lot of churches nearby, so always make it a God bless on your sign, and all the little tricks of the organized begging that isn't real begging. I was there. I've been homeless. I didn't beg, but I got to the point where I really thought about it a couple times. But there are people that are legitimately in need, and I'm not saying that they are all fakes, but there is an entire business of fakes.
Oh yeah, there's definitely organized begging. Like we see a whole lot of it in the geographic area that I'm in. But yeah.
And they rotate out on a regular basis. I mean, it's like a schedule. It's like a work job.
Oh yeah, it's planned. There's organization to it.
I used to work for a guy in Florida called the Moss Man, who picked Spanish moss off the trees in cemeteries, cured it, and sold it to florist shops. It was a great business, but it was all manual labor for picking through it to get rid of the sticks and everything else out of the. Because I mean, Spanish moss rots the tree, so when you pull the moss, you get a lot of detritus. Yeah. We were low on people. We were like down 2 people one day, and we stopped at a guy with a sign that said, "We'll work for food," and offered him work, and he told us to go buzz on. And so my boss found some other day labor and hired an extra one and gave him a sign that said, "No, we won't," and stood our extra labor right next to the guy all day long. And finally he got fed up and marched off and got into a Mercedes and drove away.
Oh, really? A Mercedes? Man.
A Mercedes. And not an old Mercedes.
Yeah.
Not necessarily new that year, but definitely a nice car.
Mercedes. Wow.
Well, I mean, the character Yuli lives in a section, what is it, Olympus Heights or whatever it is. It's basically McMansions, and she just begs for a living. And those things are real.
Absolutely.
But anyway, I digress.
Oh yeah. When
there's a lot more information about homeless and organized begging in my head than I put in the page.
Yeah, there's quite a bit to it. My question I was going to ask, so when you set out to write Dumpstermancer, was your experience of homelessness sort of the origin of it? Like, did you sit down and say, I want to write an urban fantasy about a homeless mage? Or was it something else?
You're very close. You were very close. There are a couple of factors that went into it. The first was I wanted to write a new, better, faster paced, harder hitting urban fantasy that was much shorter than my epic fantasy work. So something targeted at about 80 to 90,000 words. So as part of that, I stole the scene break or beat outline from Burn Notice. Because I love Burn Notice. And I love how it's always there's the burn notice quest and the somebody needs your help Michael quest. And I wanted to do that with Eli. I wanted the I need to get it so that I'm no longer a branded criminal. I need to reclaim my name. I need to clear my name. And that's, to me, that's the burn notice quest. And then there's the somebody wants to help you Michael quest, which for discarded is Darren coming about the glamour spell. In duplicity, it's Duval coming about the PGs. No, not the PGs, the killer that's killing the homeless. Sorry, I mixed up my plot. And so I wanted to build the books around that. I wanted to build the books around that concept because I just love burn notice. I've watched it over and over and over and over again, trying to learn from the people that write it to be a better writer, a better storyteller.
I'm gonna have to add
so that was
watch because I haven't seen it yet.
One aspect of the creation of Dumpstermancer. That's the technical aspect, the stuff us authors do that nobody really cares about. There's a movie with Paul Hogan called Almost an Angel. And Paul Hogan is a hugely successful kind of bank robber, break-in artist who comes out of prison and starts robbing again. And something happens to him that makes him think that he's died and become an angel. And in one of the scenes in it, he's walking, I think he's driving, and he passes by he passes under the overpass, and there's all these homeless people sitting there. And the person that's with him says, oh yeah, well, that's just the way it is nowadays. And then he reads in his Bible that about the loaves and the fishes, and he goes and robs a seafood restaurant to get, X number of fish sandwiches. And I was watching that movie, and I had the back brain doing its thing, and I went, a homeless wizard. What would it be like to be a homeless wizard? And why would a wizard be homeless? Because a wizard has power. Right. And most of that power is often turned into ways where a wizard can make money or other resources or sell his magic for some resources. And in an open world like Dumpstermancer, which, I mean, it didn't exist quite like that yet, but it was almost there. He could make all sorts of money. And from that statement, he could make all sorts of money, came Adam, Thesia, and their betrayal for money. Because Eli was trying to help people, and he didn't want to charge too much because he thought that a stasis spell to help the doctors deal with a burn victim was more important than charging. The doctors having the spell was more important than him having money.
Right, because most of his early spells were specifically for first responders and doctors and whatnot, right?
Yep, so there's some air bubble spells for fires. There's some extinguisher spells. There's the stasis spell. Everything was there. There was some stuff that is it Willie Bradley? Yeah, Willie Bradley said helped them when they were in the combat zone when he was still a soldier. And I'll be honest, I don't know what all those little things he created are. I am a discovery writer after all, so we'll get to them when we get to them. But a homeless wizard, why can't he make money with his magic? Well, he's not allowed to actually buy components, so he can't use magic. And then, my books, hope and perseverance. That's pretty much my core tenet.
Yep.
So just because he can't this way doesn't mean he can't find a path the other way around the I can't wall onto whatever I can path he's got.
One of the things that I absolutely love about your characters is they see a problem or they're denied something, and their first question is, how do I find another way to accomplish this? And I love reading about characters like that.
It's part of my core tenets. Hope and perseverance. There's not a wall you can't find a way around somehow.
Yep.
And maybe there is a wall I can't find a way around somehow, but I haven't found it yet. Not yet.
If you find a way around, just barrel through it. There are ways.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're walking down a path, a wall appears. You don't just sit down and pout that there's a wall in your way. Why don't you just peek around the sides?
Yep.
It's the Robin Hood Men in Tights thing, where Carrie has to cross the log because he couldn't possibly cross the itty bitty stream that's less than a foot wide.
Oh my gosh, I need to go rewatch that movie. That's one of my favorites. That's a great comparison. Oh, all right. Well, yeah, you did a spectacular job with the Dumpstermancer series. Like I know I've said it a million times in this interview, but it's one of my favorites. It's so good. Everyone needs to read it, and it's getting close to. It's actually like 9:35. We're almost to 10 o'clock. So I think this has been a great interview. I think I'm going to start wrapping it up. So do you have before we wrap up? Do you have, of course you've got, the Kickstarter we've been talking about. Do you have any other conventions or anything that are coming up where you're going to be appearing if people want to go get books signed in person?
So I will be at Dragon Con,
Nice.
in the end of the month, with the Kickstarter ending a few days after that. So obviously I'll be passing out the new Dumpstermancer DECOY bookmarks, which have a QR code to the Kickstarter, and a small bio of AJ Stone. Mm-hmm. I'm doing a number of panels. I'm getting to do some panels with some of the people that I've been wanting to meet, so I'm excited about that.
Nice.
I am hoping to have basically, here's my Kickstarter table in the Fantasy Gather for the Fantasy Lit Track Friday night. Mm-hmm. I've got a 10 a.m. panel Friday, 10, 11:30, and 5:30 p.m. panel on Saturday, a 5:30 p.m. panel on Sunday, and I think that's it. That doesn't mean I won't crash a panel and sweet talk one of the moderators into giving me some table space.
Uh-huh.
I can be charming, or I can just bribe them with books.
Yes. All right. Well, this has been a great time. Thank you, everyone who watched us. Thank you, Michael, for coming on the show. And of course, whenever you've got something else coming out, you are welcome to come back. But is there anything else?
You might not want to make that invitation. They did just show off 5 brand new ones that nobody's seen yet. And I just got another new one back from a publisher that doesn't want it anymore. So I got stuff.
You got plenty of stuff, man. We may just have to wait until you have a good chunk out and then just do a big old group.
Well, that works, except we seem to deep dive into the stories and the reasons. And so you add 2 or more stories, and that's going to be something of a problem.
Maybe we'll just have to do like Michael J. Allen week or something. We will work it out.
Okay, anyway. My ego is not that big. I don't think I can handle that much pressure.
Anyway,
no, I'm good.
Oh yeah, thank you for coming on. It's been a great interview, and thank you everyone else for watching. Bye.
Bye.